Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Cheers.
Noah and Johanna. We got sparkling water, which is my new favorite addiction. And this one was actually recommended to me by Sarah Butler. It is blueberry pomegranate. And Jojo, you are drinking?
Strawberry cucumber.
Refreshing. They're both amazing. This week's Friday Happy Hour chat is brought to you by AHA Sparkling Water. Pay us. Okay. So, what we're talking about this week is Johanna's post, 4 ways to stay clean, 4 ways to stay sober.
Correct.
For some reason, we never know what the title is, but what's important is you're not using.
4 keys to staying sober.
4 keys to staying sober. That's it. So, we're going to kick it off with 1, finding a community. So, me and Johanna took 2 different paths to getting clean, getting sober, and she did sober living, I did prison.
Yep.
I recommend her path, not mine. So Johanna, talk about finding a community and how that helped you to make that transition to sobriety.
Well, I first started building my sober community while I was in the halfway house. I met a lot of very nice and interesting females in there, and a lot of us transitioned from the halfway house to sober living, which was nice. So when I got to sober living, I already had a handful of women that I already had built relationships with. Because when you're in active use, the people you generally tend to cling on to or build relationships with are very unhealthy individuals. Yeah. And I just wanted to rebuild my whole life structure, and it's very difficult in maintaining sobriety on your own. It's very good to have a supportive group to help you continue to grow and learn more about yourself and get active in the community. Yeah. And by doing that, I felt good about myself. So, you know, it's like a give and take kind of a thing.
So how long, you had a good amount of time that between treatment to halfway house, sober living, because you, even after your obligation was fulfilled, you stayed in sober living.
Correct.
For
2 years.
2 years.
Yes.
So that's a pretty long time. I mean, 6 months of treatment seems like an eternity sometimes. And not only did you do 6 months or 9 months?
9.
So yeah, you did 9 months of treatment. I've done years of treatment between the prison treatment and now, and those are all needed things, but you can't stress the community and who's this bubble around you and who's influencing you and how prepared are you once some of those old relationships start coming back around, because it'd be so easy to get sucked back into it. So obtaining a sponsor, I can talk on that because that's really when I got serious in my recovery. That's when I entered recovery. I had already done 14 months of inpatient treatment. Then I was doing Narcotics Anonymous after inpatient. And it wasn't until I found a sponsor that I actually started to align my action with my program. Mm-hmm. Because before that I was not using, but there's a big difference between being sober and being in recovery.
Oh, absolutely.
Huge difference.
I agree.
And once you have somebody in your life to actually hold you accountable, to show you, and really to call you on bullshit.
Yeah.
And to make you do uncomfortable things that are healthy, and because they're not going to ask you to do something, they shouldn't.
No.
And if they are asking you to do something that's unhealthy or could hurt a relationship, then that's not the right sponsor.
Correct.
And you mentioned that in your post.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because not everyone who's in the rooms of AA or NA or in sobriety in general are healthy people.
Yeah.
I've met many people in the rooms of AA that still behave, you know, past behaviors and are still in unhealthy relationships themselves. So like I said in the post, I'm cordial with them, but I also keep them at a distance.
Yeah.
And also, when you get a sponsor, you may have that sponsor for a while and then realize maybe this isn't the most appropriate person for me, or maybe your sobriety is in a different place than they are.
And so maybe they got you to here and you've plateaued.
Right, and you need someone new to help you to continue to progress, which is okay. Yeah. It's okay to switch sponsors, and you may find someone and be in a working relationship with them for a couple months and then realize, like, oh, this really isn't working.
And I've seen people go from this sponsor to that sponsor, and then years later end up going back to that original sponsor. Right. So it's really where you're at in that time of life. And there's nothing wrong. And there's exactly where they're at. There's nothing wrong.
Because life continues to help when you're in sobriety. Life just doesn't stop just because you're sober. Yep. So maybe something big occurs in their life and they need to focus more on themselves for a moment of time, which is good. Yeah. That they're self-aware and taking care of themselves.
Yep. And it's just what you need. Like some people, like, I don't consider myself a needy sponsee, but I've seen other people that, like, they need a lot. Yeah. And they need a lot of attention. They need a lot of hand-holding. They need a lot of accountability. They need access to you 24/7, and they'll show up at your house in the middle of the night. Right. So a person who needs that type of attention, and they might find a sponsor that they're not getting what they need, so they need to find another one. Right. And there's nothing wrong with that. You need to find what works for you. What works for you might not work for me, and what works for me might not work for you. So that's important. Having fun is crucial. It's been a huge part. So that early part of treatment for me, when I was in the residential drug abuse or drug addiction program at Yankton, I was always doing these skits and these upbeats, and I was lip singing "Sexy Back" by Justin Timberlake and doing just these crazy Jerry Springer upbeats, and we were having fun and we were sober, and it really, I was dancing, singing, just doing things that I really only could do drunk or high, because that's originally why I started using, was because I thought I was more fun, I was more confident, I was able to be that life of the party. In these moments in early recovery, I was like, hey, I can do this stuff and not be using. Yeah. And that's important, because I also drank and used drugs when I was golfing or fishing. Right. And now I know, now I have confidence, even though I haven't went back to doing, hunting or not hunting, but fishing and golfing, I have confidence now that I can learn to do those things again sober as well. Yeah. So that's huge. How about for you? I mean, the fun moments. You got the picture of you and Jody.
When we're ziplining.
I know, on the ziplining. I know that's
I highly recommend ziplining to anyone.
Ziplining, yeah. What are some fun things you did?
Yeah, ziplining, and just like little things like fishing, or even like playing cards. Like I was always drinking.
There's always drinking games.
Always.
There's always flippy cup or beer pong.
Or even if you're playing rummy, it's like, okay, if they make up like little rules to even just normal card games. Yeah. And so it's just going even to baseball games, sporting events.
Music
is huge for me. I love music.
Because I think if I can't have music in my life and still go to live music, I don't think I could stay sober.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Because that's just something that I've just always just loved and just made me feel so good. And it's weird. I'm out now. And now there's still no live music because of COVID and sporting events. I mean, I still want to go to the Viking-Packers game every year. I still want to go to a Twins game. It's just I have to go to those things and not have a beer.
And for me, I was really nervous about going to live music sober, because
you thought it'd be a trigger?
Yes, because for me, live music was associated with drugs and drinking, always. Yeah. And
festivals and
absolutely
eating ecstasy, and which me and Johanna have talked, and if there's something we still wish we could do, that's probably a craving that still exists, huh?
It is. It does still exist, and it probably will for a very long time. But what I did is I brought a sober girlfriend with me to the first live show I went to.
Just to
have that accountability.
That support.
And not be like, oh, maybe I can sneak off and go get a beer and
so
no one will know.
Are you saying I have to bring my mom?
Or me.
I have to bring Mary or you? Okay. I'll bring both.
There we go. But yeah, just having and I think that's important in early sobriety. It's okay to bring, supportive people with you. And if you're uncomfortable, it's okay to leave.
There you go. All right, what's the fourth one?
Rebuilding relationships, which is
so
huge.
Important.
So important.
That's what your sponsor is going to push you to do. That's how you're going to have the community around you, because many of those relationships in this community you're building are the ones you're rebuilding.
Yes.
For me, I was just talking about it I had a treatment call just a minute ago, and we were talking about my brother. And even though he's here to support me, and he's shooting videos with me and doing posts with me and coming over and working out with me, what we're doing is we're rebuilding a relationship that my addiction drove a wedge between.
Right. And I did same thing with my sister. My sister and I had a very unhealthy relationship because of my use. And I take all my responsibility for the harm that I've caused in all my relationships. But yeah, after I got sober, we started hanging out like every day. And I know that would have never happened had I not gotten sober. And I'm very grateful. And at first it was kind of awkward a little bit, just because it's like I was really only around her when I was intoxicated. And I just felt so good about myself to be able to give back from all the harm that I had done, and including my parents as well, and my brother, just everyone. And having that support of your family is so crucial, and it was very crucial in my sobriety, and I'm very grateful that they were supportive, still are supportive. Wouldn't have alcohol at, Christmas or Thanksgiving, which I was very grateful for, to help me to not have so many triggers, because holidays can be huge triggers, especially in early sobriety. And it's nice when,
one thing, a couple family members, they've come over here and they've had a bottle of wine and they've always asked, Noah, is it okay if we drink this? Absolutely. And it's really cool of them to even ask. So it's just, when you're hanging out with someone else, don't just assume that you can't do something in front of them, but the best thing, just like in learning all these things and building these relationships, is just communication.
Absolutely.
That's what it comes down to. So.
And just being honest too. If you're if I'm having a bad day, I'm 7 years sober. If I'm having a bad day, I'm not going to put myself in a situation where I know there's going to be alcohol, because even though I've been 7 years sober, who knows if something just goes off and I just say, screw it.
Get fucked up. Absolutely. All right. Well, Johanna, thanks again for coming over, getting in. Morgan's busy. I know you guys love her,
Morgan.
But thanks, Morgan. But we're doing it without you. So Johanna, she's got 7 years. I got 4 years.
Woo!
Next Tuesday.
Holla!
So next week's happy hour chat will be 4 years clean and sober by Noah Bergland.
Woo-hoo.
Yours truly. Other than that, love you guys. Thanks for the support.
Have a great weekend.
Have a great weekend.